Welcome, initiates. Today's Akashic phrase is celestial hierarchy, which can also be hierarchies, because that's what we're going to talk about. All 9 of them, where they came from, who said they came from where, and how we know them today. And this is very important because, in essence, what we're going to describe here, you can find in your own self, in your own ninefold constitution of your body, soul, and spirit. We're going to talk about that because, in essence, we are in a symbiotic relationship with these celestial hierarchies. Now, celestial, of course, means the heavens and the stars, and Elysium, and the Tushita heaven, wherever you want to call it, heaven. And basically, this is a misconception, or at least we need to add the part that when we think of celestial and stars, we need to add the part that at night, when we're on the earth looking at the stars, there's also stars on the other side of the earth. So we need to open up our mind and realize that when I'm talking about the sphere of the zodiac, I'm talking about all the stars, not just the band of the 12 zodiacal zodiac signs that we refer to, that the sun travels through in a year. But no, we're talking about all of the stars, all the fixed stars, all the constellations. That is what we're talking about when we're talking about celestial. And when we're talking about hierarchies, of course, the word higher means higher, literally. And archy, the word archy, or put an E at the end instead of a Y, and what do you have? You have an arc, an archetype. So when we're going to talk here about, I didn't put it up here. Well, I'm going to have to definitely make reference to it. And first off, I want to make a scholastic apology. There's no way anyone, myself included, can possibly do this subject justice. Impossible. Why? Because as we've discussed in previous Akashic podcasts, when you reach the barrier or the threshold between the physical and the spiritual world, you can't take any of your sense-bound thinking into the spiritual world. So the second that you want to consider angels and start going up the rank of hierarchies, you have just left anything physical, anything sense-bound. You have left the ability to really cognize most of these things, except to understand their generic relationships, and particularly to use Aristotle's 10 categories. And so the archy, you'll also find in the name of course, archangels and archai. And archai means the primal beginnings, or the primal beings, or the beginning of time, or the time spirits, the zeitgeist, has many different names. Sons of fire, personality, all these different names for these ranks here. And they go back to the ark. In other words, this is the first angels. And this is the first. So it gets extraordinarily complicated to describe what I'm going to try to address today. As a matter of fact, when I went through basically what was called anthroposophical studies many, many years ago with my friends at that time, we tried to write down this cosmological system, and it turned out to be a paper that kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger until we didn't have a table big enough to put it on. And it was basically how this hierarchy has manifested our physical world in very specific time periods, in very specific donations and sacrifices and offerings of these hierarchy working at different times in different realms that have all rolled up to what we have today. It would be fair to say that everything that you are and everything that you see has been a donation of the hierarchy. Even your own thinking, feeling, and willing can be found in the hierarchy. The hierarchy, you are participating with the angels when you have higher thoughts, you're participating with the archangels when you have higher feelings, and participating with the archai when you have higher will impulses. In other words, moral imagination, moral inspiration, moral intuition. Well, you're working in their realms. But what we forget is they're working in our realms in many ways because of this word that we studied before, heterochrony. And that's why I had to, unfortunately, draw this in here. This wasn't on purpose. As a matter of fact, I should put a category right here and put Aristotle's categories, as he called them, the 10 categories. But if we were to make a chart of this, first off, it kills the spirit. The anthroposophist would say, you can't have a chart of anything spiritual. Don't ever do that. don't ever write this stuff down in a chart because it would deaden it. It would kill it. Well, that's possibly true. And I will go through this in a minute and maybe give some substantiation to that and the reason why. I haven't done this before, but let's go ahead and do it. Let's go ahead and call this the 10 categories of Aristotle. And this one is quantity, quality, relationship, space, time, position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, I should have started off always with suffering. Isn't it beautiful? If you ask Aristotle what the top and the bottom is, it's the same. Suffering. That should tell you something. And then these we see as related to these hierarchies. These are related to these names of the hierarchies, wisdom, motion, form. And then willpower is it's motive force. And harmony is sometimes called balance by Aristotle. And then when you get up to the top, it's suffering again. Well, why is suffering so important? Because if we were to talk about the heterochrony of how we got here, we must realize that we are in the fourth incarnation of the earth. Okay, so as you look out upon everything you see came out of like a cocoon. And it was in a rest period before that called a pralaya. I'm going to draw this in so you know that what I'm talking about. A pralaya happened here, 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 and will happen here, here, and here. And so that is like a cocoon. So when a caterpillar goes into a cocoon, comes out as a butterfly, that's what happens between each one of these. And that's why there's a pralaya in between each one. And those are almost impossible for the human mind to cognize. It almost is inconceivable. But if you study the life cycle of the monarch butterfly and you see that it has 3 prior times that it actually comes, there's 3 strains, or there's a generation of a monarch. When a monarch lays the eggs, those eggs lay eggs, and they lay eggs, and that goes 3 times. And then only on the 4th time do they fly to Capistrano. And so if you study what a butterfly goes through, particularly with these pralayas being the life of a butterfly, literally, and the death of a butterfly, not only it going into a cocoon and to the chrysalis and then coming out as a butterfly, but also the stages between why it has to have 3 generations before the 4th generation is ready to fly and have that instinct to fly those thousands of miles to Mexico. That's what we are doing. Now, we're in the 4th stage, and we're in human stage. These 3 prior stages donated what we have as from the hierarchy as our world. They donated at this time. I'm not going to mention these names too much. I'm just going to call them 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. And imagine that the 1st and the 7th really started at the same place, just like with the celestial hierarchies. You always have to realize that the Trinity is at the top. There's 9 hierarchy, but there's a Trinity at the top, which makes 12. And the 12 is basically this world view, the 12 world views we have to have, the 12 senses, all that presents to us in the zodiac from the 12 directions, so on and so forth. So here, on what we call Earth, now I'll tell you the names of these, though in fact, most anthroposophists know them backwards and forwards, because as Rudolf Steiner will say, as we know, before the Earth incarnation, there was the Saturn incarnation of the Earth, the Sun incarnation of the Earth, the Moon incarnation of the Earth, then the Earth itself, and humans only truly became thinking free beings on this particular 4th incarnation of the Earth. And then in the future you have the 5th incarnation of the Earth is Jupiter, the 6th as Venus, and the 7th is Vulcan. Now in these, strangely enough, we're going to become ranks of the hierarchy. So we're down here in the Earth incarnation, but as we go into the pralaya, and after the pralaya, when we reach the Jupiter incarnation, we'll be surrounded in an environment of love. And every speck of love that you ever gave or that flowed through you, as you being really the eyes and ears, hands, the heart and the willpower of God or the divine on earth. Whatever you've done that was good, that was moral and full of love, and also love that was freely given, will create the atmosphere of Jupiter. Right now we're in the atmosphere of wisdom. And I can explain why, but just as you look out on the world, what you see is wisdom. Look very, very close. That wisdom can give you some higher thoughts that you might be able to carry over the threshold between the physical and the spiritual and take some of those higher thoughts into the realm of the angels, your inspirations or your intuitions into the higher realms. But people think that these realms above can't be touched. It can't be comprehended. They can't be cognized. They can't be described. But in essence, that's not true. And that's because Aristotle gives us the 10 categories. And the 10 categories, let's put a 10C, and this is, of course, Aristotle. And right here, this is quantity, quality. That's where we're stuck. Science hasn't gotten past that. We, as hierarchical beings, aren't even at the stage that we can cognize the rank of the hierarchy directly above us, called quantity. And let me give you an example of that. An enzyme can do, there's one enzyme that can do over 1 trillion reactions in 1 second. Your human body, there's 10 trillion bacteria in your stomach that you are the lord of, and you can kill it with bad food, or you can make them grow by giving them probiotics and fermented cabbage and other things. But when it comes down to it, you're in between a world below you and a world above you. And we are the symbiotic children of this hierarchy, and we are attempting to understand these things. And if we listen to what Rudolf Steiner said about Aristotle's view of the 10 categories, which he says is an alphabet of the cosmos, and that if we can understand the 10 categories, the celestial hierarchies, and we can take that alphabet, we can turn it into the language of the cosmos. In other words, all the mysteries of the world are contained in understanding what it means. Sometimes also, I should put that in here, sometimes instead of suffering, this is replaced with the word being. Some also up here, they'll replace it with being. And these are all, there's different names here, by the way. And there's also different names here. Many, many different names for these beings. There's even different ways to spell this word and some of the other names of the hierarchy. They spell them different. There's a debate about which one is in which position. And so the great writers about the hierarchy after, well, some of them were before Aristotle, but they talk about them. For instance, let's just look at this historically. Ancient India, did they have angels and archangels? Oh yes, they had different names for it. How about ancient Persia? Oh, of course. I can give you all the names, but it's not going to mean much to you. Then you can go to Egypt, and you'll see these ranks of beings like Anubis, like later on Hermes Trismegistus, like Isis and Osiris. You see these beings all over the place that have responsibility for certain things. And so all the way back to the beginning of time, in recorded history, and as we were writing things down, these beings have been described in many different ways. And in every culture that I know of that has a developed cosmology, these beings crop up in different ways, different descriptions with different names. But if we in the modern age wanted to look at what Aristotle gave us as pure logic, we could say that once we understand suffering and being, well, is being suffering? Some would debate that. Buddhists tell you understand suffering, and you can then stop suffering, and then you can reach enlightenment. So, what is being? What philosopher can explain what being is? So, to begin with, just the fact that we exist, that all these hierarchies donated so many things to us, which we can see over here some of the donations they've made. Most of us don't know that, and most of us don't realize that when we're in our higher thoughts, we're communing with angels. And most of us think that this is nonsense in the West. Most of us, I mean by secular humanist, good old Western, even Christians, Catholics, Baptists, whatever, they'll acknowledge there's angels, archangels. They're not going to acknowledge much that there's an archai. And then when you mention that the Bible makes reference to powers, mights, and dominions, principalities, and so on and so forth, they'll say, oh yeah, that's right. That is in the Bible. Yes, those beings exist. I'm not really sure what that means. Now the question might arise, who do you pray to then? Should you pray to your guardian angel? How about the archangel above that angel? Or other angels? Should I pray to all the angelic hosts? Who is it that's divine? Well, this is the part and really the motive behind doing this particular article, which we've done about a 45-page article, and we're quoting Rudolf Steiner and Pseudo-Dionysius the Areopagite, we're quoting St. Thomas Aquinas, we're quoting Aristotle and numerous others, Goethe and others, basically stating what this hierarchy is. But when it comes down to it, out of all of them, the clearest explanation of who this hierarchy is, and going back into the heterochrony, back into these times and what the hierarchies did in these times and who they did it with and how they manifested what is called cosmogenesis, which will be a new Akashic podcast. We're going to focus on cosmogenesis and go into a much more detailed description of this, what they call the bathtub, or this bell curve, as it were. But these, if you understand these, then you have the basis of a cosmology to understand these. But they're actually one and the same. In other words, you cannot understand the hierarchy without a cosmology, and you cannot understand a cosmology, a comprehensive cosmology, without the hierarchy. And what they donated at what times, how that added up to make the human being, and then what the human being is going to do with that. So, any time that you talk about the one divine, whether it be Sophia or God or the Father God, it's of the past, the present, and the future. So I am Isis. I am the past, the present, and the future. No man has lifted my veil and lived. That means we haven't understood nature. We haven't taken the first step. We haven't understood and listened carefully enough with our hearts to how it is we got here and what it is that is making this up now. Who cares about a creation story? There's many of them. Which one's true? Well, that's up to you. But how about the creation story right now, that we're co-creators with this hierarchy, and that it is our responsibility to take over what they have been giving us out of their own donation, their sacrifice, their suffering, their being. And really, these are not the direct being of the hierarchy. They are the shadows that are cast down into the physical plane that we're dealing with. But they still have a certain order and wisdom to them that reflects these beings. For instance, this is very strange. These beings up here, the highest beings of love and harmony and willpower, seraphim, cherubim, thrones, they're the reflection of air, water, and warmth. So you can actually find angels where? In the nature spirits, in the air. So when you look into the clouds and you look at the weather of clouds, you're looking at the cast forth donation that has come into physical matter, that has been enchanted, that has been put into a spell for our sake as a human being, because we don't understand that space and time don't really exist. And who in their mind can get beyond space and time? Because if you could, then you'd understand position, which is really the sun wisdom and the way that the sun creates all life. Who understands that? Who every day says thank you to the sun for every single living thing on the earth? No. And these beings are just some of the beings from this rank, the rank of the Karyotetes, the rank of wisdom, who work from the sun. And if we rise up to these, let's take, for instance, just this second rank, as it's called. The first rank is the highest. The second is here. The third is here. The second rank, the exousiai, the beings of form, were also called the Elohim. Many names. Also, one of the Elohim is Jehovah, the moon god of the Hebrews. And so the seven of these beings of form work together and allow, from the rank of the Trinity, from the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, the Son, the solar logos, this is the first logos, second logos, third logos. So from the higher Trinity, the Son comes all the way down through this hierarchy and works through the beings of form, the Elohim, to create the form of the human being, to create the I am of the human being, to create what is called the ego, or the self of the human being. And also, then that being, Christ, came further down, all the way into this lowest rank. The lowest rank is the 10th rank, which is only just starting. That's why I didn't put it up here. That's the human hierarchy. We have yet to become beings of love, and we have yet to become free. And we have yet to learn to take over some of the jobs that the hierarchies do for us every day and sacrifice for us every day. And so as we do, then we will rise up from and fulfill the human hierarchy rank and eventually become what? An angel, a guardian angel. And we'll talk about this in a minute. For the anthroposophist listening, you really smart anthroposophist, I'm going to throw this out now because sometimes I say it and I don't get back to it. Your guardian angel, according to Rudolf Steiner, he says there is no difference in terms of spiritual science between your guardian angel and your spirit self. In other words, it's what I've been saying all along. Your higher self is coming to you from the future. It's beyond time and space. It's already accomplished. It was accomplished at the moment that creation was begun, with the seraphim receiving the plan from the Trinity in love, the cherubim creating a harmonious plan for it to manifest, the spirits of the thrones, who are the beings of willpower. They're the ones that entered into working into the physical plane. And what did they do? Out of nothingness, the archai became human. We're not the only humans in this entire cosmology. The archai became human in the first incarnation of the earth. The archangels became human in the second incarnation of the earth. The angels became human in the third incarnation of the earth. And humans finally, after all the donations of the thrones, Kyrieutetes, Dynamis, Exousiai, archangels, archai, after all their donations, working out the plan that came from the Trinity through the seraphim and the cherubim, the human could then, at the moment that Christ was on the cross, the mystery of Golgotha, the human was given then a free ego, and the human blood became the carrier of that free ego. And that is when we had the ability to start to ascend and become what we're supposed to become, an angel in the future. But it doesn't mean that right now we can't call down aspects of ourself through moral imagination, which is our guardian angel, moral inspiration, which is the archangel right now. That's the archangel Michael, who's now the archai. He's risen up into be the ruler of this time period, approximately 354 years, according to Trithemius of Sponheim, who I also put into the report. So you'd see these archangelic periods that you can go through history and say, oh my goodness, they do, in this regular cycle, have certain impulses that happen in culture that are very like a flavor or a color. And there's 7 archangels, and they take their turns in rising up from the realm of the archangel into the realm of the archai. And so we as human beings can, with moral imagination, moral inspiration, moral intuition, reach up into our future selves and pull down what it is we need to basically ensheath ourselves, to embody ourselves with these gifts that have already been given. So the human being and what we're supposed to become is already a plan, a long, long, long time ago. And the perfect human being has never incarnated, except for Christ. And that was for 3 1/3 year. But the perfect human being is kept up here with the hierarchy. So your perfect nature, at the end of all of this evolution, remains up here And through grace and mercy, it comes down to feed us as we are able to ascend. But it is our effort. We must ascend. It doesn't come down for no reason. It comes down slowly in time with the progressive evolution, spiritual evolution of mankind. But we ourselves can accelerate all of that evolution. Initiates, any one of you, when you have an intuition, you are being what Rudolf Steiner called the supermen from Vulcan. Not only that, there literally are archi from Vulcan manifesting right now that help human beings in their spiritual development. There are archangels from the realm of Venus, which will be the incarnation of the Earth and Venus, that are manifesting now, the same as there are angels manifesting in our thought through love. And that is the reason that in the philosophy of freedom it says that thought alights first as an intuition of love. And that is what this is talking about. When an angel alights in you, it also has the support of the archangels and the archi. Now, why is that? And this is very important. Well, first off, I forgot to go back to the key point. The key point is celestial hierarchy, a trinity. There is only one divine. How can I impress this upon you big enough? There's only one divine. Call it what you want. Male, female, it doesn't matter. There's only one universe. There's only one cosmos. And when you look at it now, with the new telescopes and the new information they have, it looks like a human heart. So the universe looks like a human heart. And that's what we have. And I'm going to explain why these symbols are up here in just a second. But as we're looking at this, there's one divine. There's a trinity that is the same thing. And this hierarchy, these aren't separate deities. These aren't separate beings to worship. As I just pointed out, we humans will become these. And yes, in the long run, we'll go even into these realms. And in the very long run, we will go all the way up and we will be in this rank helping the Trinity create new solar systems out of what is called the zodiac. So, there is no such thing as Christian pantheism just because there is a celestial hierarchy. And that's my point. There is one divine. It has a trinity. And then it has a trinity of ranks of angels. Because altogether these are called the hosts of angels. So there's three. The trinity then has 9 and it has 3. Okay, well the human being has 9, which would be the physical, etheric, astral, sentient soul, intellectual soul, consciousness soul, spirit, self, life, spirit, human. That's our constitution. And these beings work through them all the time in different realms also, in different ways, in different realms, at different times, and have donated things at different times. So the hierarchy of the thrones, the minerals on Saturn are no longer thrones. They evolved into cherubim, seraphim, and now they are sitting, witnessing the Trinity. And how did they start? They were human. And how does a human start? It starts as creation out of nothingness. And so that is the whole point, that out of nothingness we continue to populate this rank of the hierarchies, all together called messengers of the divine. Every one of these is talking to the rank above. Okay? Every one of them. Every angel talks as much as they can to the other angels and to the other archangels, and they talk to the archi all the way up, and they all take their directions from the Trinity, because the Trinity is also rules this by saying this is the Father, this is the Son, and this is the Holy Ghost. And so the Trinity works through the 9 in a threefold way, and it's threefold, but there's still only one divine. And personally, there are many people who believe there's also a divine feminine Trinity, so you'd have to have both of them, because in the dual world, there has to be a dual Trinity. And if you want to look at God the Father as being an unmanifest being, which some would say that's true, and made good cases for that. The Holy Spirit, the Son and the Holy Spirit then also being co-equal, created at the same time. But one can say that really, some say the Holy Spirit didn't come until after Jesus Christ did his mission, his mystery of Golgotha, and left the Holy Spirit. Some would say that the Son wasn't all the way down here, so he couldn't have been part of creation. But that's the mystery of the Trinity. It's a double paradox. It not only defies cognition, it defies even relationship cognition between one thing and the other. One thing might relate to another in some kind of general fashion. And that's what we're trying to display here. How is it that you can have these things relate to the world and to you and not make them something that is obscure, far away, and only in the celestial heavens, when in fact the celestial heavens ray into us from all directions at all times, and that's the way that it works. Now, we know the nature spirits, and we know that, gnomes and undines and sylphs are nature spirits, and that they are worked through by these beings here who also work. The angels work from the realm of the moon, archangels from the realm of Venus, archive from the realm of Mercury. But of course, if you know Steiner, you know that these two there's a whole debate, and these are reversed, but don't worry about that. I'm not going to go there. So, exousiae. They are the group soul of the human beings. Now that seems weird. The human beings started off as group souls. Yes, we were almost like animals. We learned to stand upright, then we learned to speak, then we learned to talk, then we learned to think, and then we learned objective thinking, and then we got the freedom after Christ's deed of bringing a free ego model template to the earth and implanting it in the earth and in our human blood. We have the chance now to not go back into a group soul after you die, but go into a Christened condition where the group soul is shared, but it brings the flavor and color of every individual being who had to evolve and ascend to that place, which then makes what was created fantastically huge. Now, if you go to the dunamis, which are the beings of motion, and these beings work usually from the sun, and from the beings of form work from the sun and the moon. But the beings of motion, each one of them, it kind of coordinates through the different planets, even more specifically, and also then works with the beings of balance, the cherubim, to make sure that the harmony of the spheres, that the planetary motion is harmonious and balanced, because if it wasn't, we'd have no solar system. And they generally work out of the realm of the sun as a coordinated effort, and they are the group soul of the animals. So every single species of animal has a group soul. It is an archetype. The Greeks used to refer to that, of course, in the realm of the intelligences, or in the realm of they had a variety of names for it, but the realm of the ideas, the realm of the archetype, and that is what this is. These are the archetypes of the animals, and the being of dunamis, strange pronunciation of it, it looks like it's like the word dynamic, but it's dynamic motion, working from the sun and creating the group souls of the angels. And then you have the Karyotetes, who are the beings of wisdom, who the being of Sophia came down from somewhere, or whatever, we don't know. Some speculate it's from a divine feminine trinity, but somehow the hierarchical cosmic Sophia works out of the realm of the wisdom beings. And she came down through these ranks and went to the realm of the angels, but did not incarnate in Mary, called the mother of Jesus, but in fact overlighted her for 11 years. And so that being, you can start to see that there's motion here, all kinds of motion. All right? But the motion is still coordinated by the Trinity. And you have then with the wisdom, they are about the sun, and they are the group soul of the plants. So every single group soul species of the plants has a group soul that is kind of like that poetic image that every type of flower has a special star in the sky that gets, their archetype comes from that star. Well, it's somewhat like that. But when the thrones first donated warmth, it later turned into light, later turned into sound, and later turned into life ether, or what was warmth finally turned into minerals. What was light here finally turned into plants. What was sound ether here turned into the animals, and this more or less group soul of Christ working through the realm of the Elohim, or the realm of the beings of form, created the human being. And so you can see that in the human being we have mineral, plant, and animal characteristics. We also have angel, archangel, archai characteristics. We also have a form, motion, wisdom, will, power, harmony, and love, don't we? And we also have the ability to have Christ in our heart, and in our blood, in our heart, in our willpower, in everything that we do, in freedom. So when it comes down to it, we permeate this entire thing. Now, the only things that we don't permeate are these beings here called the elementary spirits, which are the offspring of the cherubim, though we can have a relationship with those elementary beings. But what he's talking about here are very high-level elementary spirits that are carried over from one incarnation of the earth to the next, called the three mothers. And they are so powerful that a human being, if they attempted to try to witness them, to observe them, to try to perceive them, you would be left in a pile of ashes. That's how powerful the mothers are. And that's why they are controlled by the cherubim, which is the nature of harmony and balance, because without it, the elementary spirits would discombobulate everything. What would happen if, the chain reaction of atoms falling out of their harmonious order creates nuclear reaction? And then at the very top, the seraphim, these beings of love, work through the planet Saturn, and we'll go in reverse here in a second, and they create the beings of the rotation of time. In other words, have you ever thought about who it is that spins our planet and makes sure that it's always the right speed? Who it is that tilted it to make sure that it got the exact right axis of the earth? Who is it that tends the powers of day and night, of light and dark? Those are the spirits of the rotation of time. Very, very powerful beings. Okay, well, they're still not more powerful than us, because we have those beings in us. Every single rhythm of the rotation of time spirits is in our psyche, and it is part of the way that we build ourselves up. So again, it's something that is in us. Now, I mentioned before that if you really want to talk about the first rank of the hierarchies, you have to talk about the celestial sphere. You have to talk what Steiner calls the zodiac. Because these beings work out of the zodiac. Now, strangely enough, and this, what I'm about to tell you, is a bit shocking. I've told it to you before, but no matter how many times I tell it to you, you probably won't cognize it. Here's what happens. From the realm of the celestial sphere of the stars, raying into the earth from all directions, it comes right up through the earth to a human being who's awake in the daytime, standing up. That creates a vortex coming out of the earth, basically from the far side of the earth from where you're standing. A gigantic vortex comes up out of the earth in a very large pattern and gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it goes just above your heart. And that is the gift of these beings right here. It creates this vortex, and the vortex goes up to just a little bit above your heart. So the gift of the zodiac, the gift of these high, incredible beings, create a force coming up out of the earth that gives us the ability to stand upright in a certain way. But even more so than that, to find our destiny. So that when we are standing upright, our feet will move us to where our destiny is supposed to take us. So these starry zodiacal forces stream up just above the heart. Now, you see on the other end, there's another vortex. Steiner says there's two vortices that meet in the heart. So that vortex is coming in from the motion of the sun and the planets in the solar system. And it comes in from the top of your head. And it's very large, and then it whirls down in a vortex until it goes just below the heart. And in between, where the one rising up and the one coming down meet, that is where your heart is. As a matter of fact, that's what creates your heart. And that is why your heart is a rhythm between a contraction and expansion, because these are forces of contraction and expansion. But when they're balanced, what do they become? What happens when you have all of these hierarchy and all of these hierarchy, these working from the zodiac, these working from the solar system, when they all come together, what do you have? The heart of the human being. And what is it? An exact replica of the finite cosmos. There is no infinite cosmos. Finite cosmos. And technically, if you wanted to say what shape it resembles in the future, it will resemble the shape of a dodecahedron, and that the human body will start to look more like the spheres that are created by these cosmic forces, like the planetary spheres. We become a sphere, but we become a sphere of crystal clear carbon that has been, and Steiner talks about the process, the earthly and cosmic nutrition process that changed the carbon in your body into luminous carbon. And the way that process happens is literally, again, it's a process of ascension using these very hierarchical beings as your ladder. It's a ladder that you climb up in ascension. And as that happens, you then become a person who can cognize the fact that you are the hierarchy of the universe. Hieroglyph of the universe. You are the 10th hierarchy. You are the solved riddle of the universe, and that it's all in your heart. And that technically, all you have to do is have one moment of illumination, and then after that, to look for, listen for, and the Spirit, and ask the Spirit to move through you. And really, that technically is all there is to enlightenment and initiation. It's to let these beings work more through you, where you consciously let them work through you. And the way you do that is through surrendering. But surrender is a conscious process. You cannot surrender, and no one can make you surrender. You must do what these beings do in the spiritual world. They interpenetrate each other. They're all the time interpenetrating each other. And I'm speaking about something that the ancients, through natural clairvoyance, told us what it looked like. The 12 senses. There's 12 senses. You have to have all 12 senses engaged before you can experience an angel. So the missing senses of ego and warmth and balance, and the other missing senses that they don't address, because there's 12 of them. And then other people have pointed out there's even more than that. And yes, there are. There's a lot of senses, but until you have all those senses working together, you're not going to be able to have a perception of these beings. And when you do, if you think, oh, they're so pretty, they're so, they're wearing white gowns, well, then you did not perceive an angel. Oh, they have halos, well, then you did not perceive an angel for sure. You are hallucinating, okay? You are fantasizing. An angel is a two-dimensional being. Can you conceive a two-dimensional being? You can't conceive two dimensions. Okay, you say, oh, it's the shadow on the ground. Well, no, wrong. That's not two-dimension. Well, it's a piece of paper, two-dimension, breadth and width. Wrong, incorrect, couldn't be more incorrect. What's two-dimension? You can't imagine it. Two-dimension is when three-dimension is dissolved. And that's when space is dissolved, and then time, you start to understand, has no authority at that point. That is how you get to an angel. And you don't see an angel as there's a phrase of Rudolf Steiner, standing behind, it's the teacher's meditation, and it starts off by saying, standing behind you is your angel. He softly lays his hands upon your head. That's what it feels like, folks. If you were clairvoyant, or you read what clairvoyance said in the past, or you are now, you would feel those two dimensions coming in like the starry world from all directions in a plane. Well, a plane goes out infinitely in two directions and is coming at you, but it has no force on the other side, so it's not really tangible. But on one side, it has an image, and that image is a mental image. And that mental image, when it hits you, you have a thought, and you think it's your thought. And that's how selfish human beings are. You didn't think the good thoughts you have, folks. No, you contacted higher beings. And when they all came rushing into your head, because how many angels can dance on the pin of a head? The philosophers tried to debate this for a long, long time. The answer is not infinite, because that's always the stupid answer. The answer is pretty close to infinite. Why? Because angels aren't bound by time, by space. And archai are not archangels aren't bound by time. That's why they become time spirits and rule entire periods of time, 360 or so years at a time. And these other beings rule 2,160 year periods or 25,920 year periods. That's one breath for some of these beings. Okay? One breath, 25,920 Earth years. 72 years, 1 degree in that big precession of the equinox. 72 years, that's the years of a human being's life. That's 1 degree in one of 360 degrees in the breath of the great goddess, or the god Sophia, or the Botanic year, or the precession of the equinoxes, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. The point is, we take that many we have that many heartbeats in a day. In other words, the human heart is a perfect replica of everything we see in the universe, because everything we see in the universe, in the cosmos, has been spelled out in megalithic structures and in our sciences as the precession of the equinox, to show that we can notice a wobble in the axis of the Earth, and that every 25,920 years the sun returns to the same place in the vernal equinox as it was 25,920 years ago, right? Well, that could have been derived by counting your heartbeat. And then you have 1 to 4 breath to heartbeat. So your breath is 1/4 of that. And that perfect balance is what happens when you are asleep or when you're in a meditative consciousness while you're awake. And what happens then? Your heart beats at an exact frequency. And that frequency is 7.83, which is the frequency that we hear from all directions of space coming at us. The Schumann wave. And then our atmosphere reacts to that, to the space of the solar system and the Earth moving through the solar system, and creates the same exact frequency. Isn't that coincidental? That the frequency of the cosmos, the frequency of our planet, the frequency of your heart, and my heart too, I hope, is the same. And when you, basically what's called quantum entanglement, what is quantum entanglement? It's love, folks. It's the hierarchy of the seraphim is love. That's quantum entanglement. Because a person who loves somebody can communicate with them across the world. We know this because plants communicate with their owners when the owners leave. Baxter proved that. Plants are alive and they react to their environment. Animals the same way. Humans the same way. There is no space. There is no time. And your higher aspects of yourself are coming to you and trying to be given to you by the midwives of your guardian angel, of the Holy Spirit, of Holy Sophia, or what Rudolf Steiner calls Anthroposophia. Those beings are here to help us, and they're here to turn us into them, but they can't do it by forcing it on us. So our obligation, if we wish to understand that we are divine in ourself, if you believe you're divine, if you don't, well then you probably shouldn't be listening to these talks, that's for sure. And I wish you good luck, because it is not a cold, dead grave. It is an etheric world you go into called Kamaloka, and everything you did and said, and everything you thought and felt and did is going to then be played back for you, because that's what these beings do. They hold it for you. These beings in the afterlife hold your karma. These beings hold your karma turning into what your body's going to be in the next incarnation. And these beings hold your intimate karma of your relationship with other people, and they're the ones who connect you up in the next incarnation. Now, with your friends, all of this is a drop in the bucket. There is no end to what Rudolf Steiner has said about the hierarchy, because there's no end to what he said about Christ. And he went further than anyone else, any other Christologist that I have ever ran across. And he puts to shame anyone who's ever attempted to address comprehensively the celestial hierarchy, or the spiritual hierarchy. Because if they don't have this cosmology here, you can't get a relationship. Now, I can't, Steiner describes exactly what the beings on Saturn went through, inwardly, outwardly. Exactly what they went through in their soul mood and their inner mood, the inner aspects of evolution, it's called, a lecture cycle he gave. How does he attain this? How does he attain a cosmological view that shows exactly what the hierarchy did when, and in the exact order, literally down to the number of years that are in one of the cycles and the way it manifests? Well, that's because the plan of the seraphim that was given by the hierarchy has the whole thing laid out. Now, one might say, I'm missing something up here. Yes, I am. I'm missing the fallen angels. Now, did this original plan have the fallen angels in it? Yes. And you say, well, wait a second. Why would God or the divine want some of the hierarchy to fall and go to lower ranks and get stuck there trying to steal things from the humans that are going through their human stages and steal that from them and keep it for them for their selfish, greedy, personal aggrandizement? That's because it had to. We wouldn't have minerals to stand on if the angelic host hadn't fallen. We wouldn't have plants or animals, and we wouldn't have humans. Without the ordered falling back, and in some cases, the hierarchy literally decided to fall back out of love, and in other cases, it was pure evil. So evil gets redeemed over time by love. And so what is spell love backwards, and it gives you evolve, a crude version, a bad spelling, a Doug Gabriel version of evolve. Why? Because that's what it reminds me of, you see. If you are stopping love, then you are devolving. And if you are loving, you are evolving, because you're going up to what you're going to be in these higher ranks. And so our job is simply to use all the elements in ourself to analyze these aspects of the divine. And at any point that you feel that it's too much, because it's just too much information, because this is what a good cosmologist wants, but what a good Platonist, that's the Aristotelians, oh, they love this stuff, but the Platonists, they just want a pretty picture. Couldn't you just draw a pretty picture on the board, and I would have felt everything that you said, and it'd be a picture of an angel? Well, no, because you can't draw pictures of angels. But if I did, for some people, that would be just as good. If I drew pictures of and there's beautiful artists who do beautiful pictures of all these hierarchies and stuff, but that's not the way it is. The way it is look at your own thinking. Look at the mechanism of your own feeling. Look at the mechanism of your willpower. And when you look into your willpower, when you get down that far, you're going to find that right next to willpower is human freedom and love. And right next to that is God's grace and God's mercy. And the difference between the two is only whether you wish to continue to be a human or whether you wish to rise up the rank through ascension to be an angel like you are supposed to be, to return to your angelic home that you came from.